Hello guys, you're welcome back to the channel. Today I'll show you how to draft a basic bodice pattern from shoulder to the waist, and this is for the beginners. I'll be making reference to this video a lot, so let's get started. So here guys, I have the pattern paper on fold, and the first line we are going to be drafting on this pattern paper is the start line, and this particular line is going to also be our shoulder line. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and start marking out the vertical lines like the chest line and the bust point. Then also we are going to draft the mid waist. Here I'm marking from the shoulder to the waist area, and the mid waist for this person is actually 16 inches, so I went ahead to draft out the line there. And up next I'm going to draft out the bust line or the bust point, and here I'm going to go ahead and draft the chest line, which is 8 in this regard, and I'm not going to make this line go all the way, all right, since this is where our armhole is going to sit later. All right, so here we have the shoulder line, here we have the chest line, and here we have the bust point, and the last line here is the waist line. All right, and like I said earlier, this pattern is on fold, so I'll just go ahead and indicate that on this folded part here. And up next guys, we are going to indicate the shoulder line, and the shoulder for this person is 15. Half of 15 is 7.5, and so I'm indicating 7.5 on the shoulder line here, and I'll go ahead and indicate 7.5 on the chest line also, and I'll connect that together on a straight line like so. And up next we are going to create our shoulder slant, so I'll come to this straight line and I'll come down by 0.5 inches. all right, and the next thing I'm going to do is to come to this folded part and create a neck width of 3 inches. all right, so the next thing I'm doing here is to connect the points together like so. all right, and by this we've already created our shoulder slant, and the next thing I'll do is to create the depth of 3 inches for the neck. all right, and that 3 inches is what I just measured here to create a kind of box, so that it will give you a guide on how to draft your neckline in case you are using a round neckline. all right, this comes handy for a beginner. all right, so you are just going to connect the angles together like this to form your round neckline. And here we've already gone ahead to create a round neckline for this pattern, and right now the next thing we are going to do is to create our darts, and by that we need to use our nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 in this case, divided by 2 is 4, so I just indicated 4, and on the waistline I indicated 4 inches, and I will be joining it together on a straight line like so. all right, and on this straight line we created, we are going to create our dart of 0.5 inches on both sides, and on the bust point we are going to come down by 1 inch, pardon me, and we are going to connect the dart legs together. So from that point we are going to connect it to one dart leg and the other dart leg, and by that we have our dart right here. And up next we are going to insert the bust circumference. So cut out the bust circumference, I'm going to insert it right on the chest line here. So here we have the cut out of the bust measurement, and I'm going to add seam allowance of 1 inch. all right, and the next circumference is for the waist, so we are going to insert cut out of the waist circumference, which is 7 in this case. And also remember that we took our dart here, and we are going to return whatever we take, which is 1 inch. We are going to return it back, so I'm returning the 1 inch for the dart and also 1 inch for seam allowance, and I'm just going to go ahead and connect the points together. And right now we're going to create the armhole curve. I'm placing the tape rule on the straight line here, and I will find the midpoint. And after finding the midpoint, we are going to come inward, because this is a front bodice and the front bodice is always deeper. So I just came inward by 0.5 inch. all right, and the next thing I'm going to do is to connect it together. So I'll go ahead and connect the point to the shoulder line, and from that point here we are going to connect to the chest line right here. And right here we have our front bodice, and I'll just indicate that here. Then I'll go ahead and cut out the pattern. So guys, this is the back, and I have the zipper allowance of 1 inch there. Then I have the chest line, the waist area. So I'll just go ahead and label each part. This is the shoulder line, this is the chest line, and here we have the waist line. And so we are going to place our tape rule on the center line here, and we are going to insert our nipple to nipple measurement of 4 inches, and I'm going to connect it on a straight line. And just like we did for the front bodies, we're going to take in our dart right on this straight line, 1/2 inches on both sides, and we are going to come to the chest line and only come down by 1/2 inch. All right, then we are going to connect the dart legs to that point. All right, so I'll just connect this other point here also, and here we have our darts. And up next, we're going to create our neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. All right, and I'll use the curve ruler to join both points together. And next, I'm going to come here and come down by 1/2 inch so that we can create our shoulder slant just like we did on the front bodice. And I'm just going to connect it to the neckline area like so. And right here, I'm going to insert 1/4 of the bust circumference with seam allowance, and I'm just going to go ahead and indicate that here. And I'm going to come down to the waist circumference and also indicate 1/4 of the waist circumference. Then we are going to add the dart that we take, which is 1 inch, and also the seam allowance for the waist area. So I'm just going to go ahead and indicate that here, and we are going to join the points together. And the next thing to do is to create the armhole curve. So I'm going to find the midpoint right here, and I'm going to place my curve ruler on the chest line and link it up with the midpoint of the straight line there. And right there we have our armhole for the back. And I'll just go ahead and cut out the pattern. And that is it. We have both the back bodies and also the front bodies.